8 Best Private Schools in Dubai with Tuition Fees Under 35,000 dirhams per year. All of these schools are rated very good by inspectors. The Indian High School, the largest school in the country, unveiled a new building in May to accommodate more pupils. Fees start at 5,525 dirhams per year and go up to 10,465 dirhams. Chris Whiteoak, The National. The Indian High School, the largest school in the country, unveiled a new building in May to accommodate more pupils. Fees start at 5,525 dirhams per year and go up to 10,465 dirhams. Chris Whiteoak, The National. Anam Rizvi. June 17, 2022. Listen in English. Listen in Arabic. Beta v.1.0, powered by automated translation. School fees in Dubai can really cut into the family budget, with many institutions charging tens of thousands of dirhams per year. But Dubai is home to 217 private schools, meaning parents have several options to choose from. Fees at Dubai's top schools can vary widely. For example, GEMS World Academy, an IB school, charges 114,128 dirhams for year 13, but our own English High School, which is in the same group, charges only 10,465 dirhams. Both institutions have been rated very good by the Emirates private school regulator, the Knowledge and Human Development Authority, KHDA. Parents don't need to make a choice between quality and price, however, as a number of reasonably priced schools have been rated highly by the regulator. The KHDA has rated 36 institutions as very good, and 8 of these charge less than 35,000 dirhams per year. The Indian High School, Delhi Private School Dubai, and GEMS Our Own English High School, for example, all Indian curriculum schools, charge less than 16,000 dirhams per year, even for senior classes. These and other schools were last inspected in person by the KHDA's Dubai School Inspection Bureau in 2019. The inspections were put on hold because of the pandemic but have now resumed. Only a handful of new schools, still to be rated, were inspected in 2022. The National takes a look at these 8 very good schools that offer a good quality of education at a reasonable price. The Indian High School, up to 10,465 dirhams per year. The Indian High School's new building was opened by Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed, Chairman and Chief Executive of Emirates Airline. All photos, Chris Whiteoak, The National. The Indian High School's new building was opened by Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed, Chairman and Chief Executive of Emirates Airline. All photos, Chris Whiteoak, The National. Many Indian schools in Dubai have recorded a boom in enrollments, particularly from families who moved to the UAE this year, and the Indian High School is one of them. The school in Oud Metha was founded in 1961 and is one of 3 campuses that make up the Indian High group of schools. More than 15,000 pupils attend the schools. The Oud Metha branch has about 9,000 pupils, but it has expanded to boost its capacity. It is one of the oldest and largest schools in Dubai and aims to cut waiting lists and enroll more pupils after opening a new 3-story building in May that features dozens of classrooms, laboratories, and activity rooms. The expansion will also enable the school to accept pupils who have been on the waiting list. The school has also established a well-being center, where pupils can seek help from counselors if they have mental health concerns. Fees start at 5,525 dirhams per year and go up to 10,465 dirhams. Delhi Private School Dubai, up to 14,416 dirhams per year. Pupils at Delhi Private School in Jebel Ali practicing for a cultural event. Kushnam Bandari, The National. Pupils at Delhi Private School in Jebel Ali practicing for a cultural event. Kushnam Bandari, The National. Delhi Private School Dubai has been rated very good for 5 years in a row, and has a pupil population of about 3,800. Located in Jebel Ali, the school follows India's Central Board for Secondary Education, CBSE, curriculum and focuses on academic excellence, leadership, pastoral care, and ensuring children are provided with emotional support. It has 288 teachers and a turnover of 16%. The school was one of the first to enact the Rahal program, which is the KHDA's personalized learning program, called the Program for Outliers Learning and Empowerment. Change is always good and one should not ignore new trends, said Rashmi Nankyelyar, principal of the school, in 2019 when the institution signed up for the Rahal initiative. Finland has shown that alternative methods of education do work. You can see the shift in education, she said. Pupils who are part of the program can at times be allowed to miss classes due to a tournament or for skills development. Fees at the school range from 10,298 dirhams in kindergarten to 14,416 dirhams in grade 12. GEMS Our Own English High School, up to 15,955 dirhams per year. GEMS Our Own English High School follows the Indian Curriculum School and is one of the Emirates' largest schools. Photo, GEMS Our Own English High School follows the Indian Curriculum School and is one of the Emirates' largest schools. Photo, GEMS The Indian Curriculum School in Al Warqa 3 has a pupil population of more than 10,400 and is one of the Emirates' largest schools. It is also one of the oldest schools in the Emirates, celebrating its Golden Jubilee in 2018. The school has pupils from 17 different nationalities. It is coeducational from kindergarten to grade 4 and is for girls only from grades 5 to 12. Read more. Best Private Schools in Dubai, the 17 top-rated institutions in the Emirate. Staffed by 471 teachers, the school has a 1:22 teacher-pupil ratio and a staff turnover of 15%. Fees at the school range from 7,237 dirhams in kindergarten to 15,955 dirhams in higher grades. The school has been rated very good by the KHDA since the 2015-16 academic year. MSB Private School, up to 22,500 dirhams per year. MSB Private School was established in 1985 and now has 2 campuses for primary and secondary education. The school in Al Nada 2 follows the national curriculum of England from year 1 to 9 and IGCSE in years 10 and 11. This is one of the least expensive UK curriculum schools in the city, providing a very good quality of education. Fees at the school range from 9,606 dirhams in the foundation stage to 22,500 dirhams in year 13. The school says it focuses on preparing pupils to be analytical, imaginative, action-orientated and caring. JSS Private School, up to 24,384 dirhams per year. Pupils during a lesson at JSS Private School in Dubai. Jeffrey E. Beighton, The National. Pupils during a lesson at JSS Private School in Dubai. Jeffrey E. Beighton, The National. JSS Private School in Al Safa is an Indian curriculum school that was established in 2011. The school has more than 2,000 pupils enrolled in grades pre-primary to 12. Fees at the CBSE curriculum school start at 11,228 dirhams in pre-primary and go up to 24,384 dirhams in grade 12. The school says its aim is to help ensure pupils become confident global citizens with a keen sense of commitment, social awareness and responsibility. It is a small school but counts itself among one of the most futuristic trendsetters in education. It offers blended trips, dance, music, drama and group projects. The Millennium School, up to 24,849 dirhams per year. GEMS Millennium School focuses on providing personalized and digital-driven learning. Photo, GEMS. GEMS Millennium School focuses on providing personalized and digital-driven learning. Photo, GEMS. The 22-year-old school in Al-Qais has close to 2,800 pupils enrolled from pre-primary to grade 12. It was established in 2000 with only 40 pupils and 11 teachers. Today, there are 160 teachers with a turnover of 9%. Fees at the Indian Curriculum School start at 16,898 dirhams in pre-primary and go up to 24,849 dirhams in grade 12. The school focuses on providing personalized and digital-driven learning. The Winchester School, up to 30,835 dirhams per year. Dubai, United Arab Emirates, April 26, 2016, left to right, Manohar Irfan, Muskan Fatnani, Akshar Patel and Calvin Francis of Year 10 from the Winchester School, Jebel Ali explaining about the Thermolator, automated thermal regulating system, during the Arab Innovation Center for Education event held at GEMS Wellington Academy, Silicon Oasis in Dubai. Pawan Singh, The National, for news. Story by Nadeem Hanif. ID No. 82141 Local Caption PS 2604 ACE 05.jpg Pupils from the Winchester School explain how an automated thermal regulating system works. Pawan Singh, The National. The UK curriculum school teaches the national curriculum for England to pupils from Foundation Stage 1 to Year 13. The school was established in September 2003 and has close to 3,900 pupils. The school is ranked very good by the KHDA for effective teaching and assessment across all grades. The curriculum is designed to meet the individual needs of pupils and it has been rated outstanding in this particular category. Fees at the school start at 13,822 dirhams in Foundation Stage 1 and go up to 30,835 dirhams in Year 13. GEM's New Millennium School, up to 31,025 dirhams per year. GEM's New Millennium School improved its ranking from good to very good in its last TIB inspection in 2019. Photo, GEM's. GEM's New Millennium School improved its ranking from good to very good in its last TIB inspection in 2019. Photo, GEM's. Located on Al Khail Road, the school follows the CBSE curriculum but offers pupils in the secondary the option to also study the GCSE British curriculum. Pupils can either choose to go down the CBSE route or pick the GCSE curriculum in Years 10 and 11 and the AS and A levels in Years 12 and 13. The school improved its ranking from good to very good in its last TIB inspection in 2019. Then 30 different countries. Fees range from 21,397 dirhams in pre-primary to 31,025 dirhams in grade 12. Dubai's top-ranked private schools, in pictures. Dubai English-Speaking School, DES, one of the oldest schools in the country, was established in 1963 in a room of a residential villa in Dubai. Rule Pablo, The National. Dubai English-Speaking School, DES, one of the oldest schools in the country, was established in 1963 in a room of a residential villa in Dubai. Rule Pablo, The National. The case for global trade in a volatile world. The pandemic is making the world economically cautious and cynical, but more multilateral, integrated path is the way forward. Thani al-Zayoudi. At the 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization, the UAE advocated for a collective approach to addressing global trade issues. AFP. At the 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization, the UAE advocated for a collective approach to addressing global trade issues. AFP. Listen in English. Listen in Arabic. Beta v.1.0, powered by automated translation. There is no doubt that the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has significantly curtailed global trade. According to the World Trade Monitor of the Netherlands Bureau for Economic Policy Analysis, trade volumes in 2020 fell to levels previously not seen since 2012, when the economy was struggling to emerge from the shockwaves of the financial crisis. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development found that the value of products exported from its member countries declined by 8.2% in 2020, while the value of service exports dropped by 16.7%, driven largely by the near-total cessation of the travel and tourism sector. The disruption caused to supply chains has been of particular concern, with sky-high freight costs, immobilized ports and general backlogs to production cycles upending the just-in-time manufacturing and distribution model. Every link on the chain was affected, too, from the sudden restrictions on the supply of raw materials to the drop in manufacturing output and delivery, meaning there was as much a problem with the supply as there was with the chain. According to Bank of America, Fortune 500 companies mentioned supply chains in their Q3 2021 earnings calls 4 times more than they did in Q2. We have seen this in products as varied as semiconductors, the unavailability of which impacted the burgeoning consumer electronics and electric vehicle sectors, and even the fruits and vegetables sector, which severely impacted growers and the communities they rely on in the developing world. It became clear that the pandemic highlighted the fragility of the global trading system, and the degree to which countries have become almost entirely reliant on imports utilizing transnational supply chains. Rather than the strengthening or diversification of those supply chains, we have seen an overemphasis placed on local production and, in certain cases, creeping isolationism in which trade has become a political tool. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a major exporter of grains, has done little to ease this trend. It is imperative, however, that we push back against such trends and remind ourselves of the benefits of the global trading system. To put it simply, Trade increases the ability of nations to develop by opening up access to new markets, new customers, new ideas, and new raw materials. Companies will have more opportunities to diversify and expand revenues, create employment, and mitigate risk, while consumers benefit from greater choice, lower prices, and new, innovative products. There is no growth, be it financial, social, or intellectual, without trade, particularly in a developing world where, according to the International Monetary Fund, nations with liberal trade policies consistently grow faster than their isolated, protectionist peers. The COVID-19 pandemic temporarily ground global aviation to a near halt. EPA The COVID-19 pandemic temporarily ground global aviation to a near halt. EPA The pandemic highlighted the fragility of the global trading system. The UAE has long understood this. With our strategic coastal position and need for goods that are beyond our ability to produce, we have always been an outward-looking nation, one with port cities that connect us to the wider Middle East and the Indian subcontinent. It is why trade became the focal point of our ambitious new economic agenda, which was crystallized in the projects of the 50 last September. Designed to both prepare for the economy and the challenges of the next 50 years and drive the recovery from COVID-19, its initiatives focus on accelerating industrial transformation, harnessing fourth industrial revolution technologies, redirecting public and select private sector procurement back to the local economy, and revising our visa, residency, and employment laws. Critically, the projects of the 50 seek to establish a new era of stronger trade and investment agreements with the UAE's key driver of global trade growth. Read more. WTO should develop digital trade rules, UAE says at Ministerial Conference in Geneva. UAE and Israel sign Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. UAE's non-oil foreign trade reaches record $136 billion in first quarter. We fully believe that other countries, especially those in the developing world, should follow suit. This is not the time to retreat inwards, but rather to seize the moment and open up their economies to the world, improve logistics infrastructure, and further integrate into the global trade system. The reward is a faster, more inclusive, and more sustainable recovery. With that in mind, it is time for a new approach to governing global trade. Just as growing trade tensions in the 1980s led to a rethink of the world trade system in the 1990s, another is needed now to ensure transparent and predictable rules in the era of digital trade, cross-border data flows, and creeping protectionism in areas such as intellectual property. Sadly, the World Trade Organization, formed in 1995, is yet to keep pace with the times. The body's effectiveness is currently being hampered in three important ways: its inability to monitor how some members apply trade rules, the dysfunction of its appellate body and its accompanying dispute settlement function, and, finally, its failure to establish a proper framework for digital trade until now. Currently, disputes in these areas are being solved bilaterally or multilaterally, as in our own CEPAs, which have separate chapters on dispute resolution and digital trade. The US and Japan are also seeking to upgrade their economic alliance to include the rapid evolution of the digital economy. However, for a comprehensive impact and a level playing field, it is critical that the WTO creates new rules to address this vital area. We are convinced that technology can drive a new era of sustainable trade growth, one that integrates and protects the interests of the developing world. Digital services, facilitated by online payments, digital documentation, and, eventually, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the Internet of Things, promise an exciting new area of opportunity. In 2020, digitally deliverable services rose to account for 64% of services exports, from 52% in 2019. However, this sector can't fully prosper if data localization policies and regulatory gaps in digital payments continue to create hurdles. We put these ideas forward at the 12th WTO Ministerial Conference, or MC12, as we press for a collective approach to addressing the issues undermining global trade. We made the case to the international community that the multilateral, integrated trading system remains a catalyst for growth, development, job creation, poverty alleviation, and social mobility. And, as we navigate today's choppy economic waters, we must now work to ensure that these efforts also serve the needs of the new, digitally powered global economy. We in the UAE are ready to do our part. What Palestinians can learn from Irish successes. A durable one-state solution based on equality and religious rights is possible. James Zogby. Israeli police officers detain a Palestinian during a protest supporting Palestinian families who are under threat of eviction from their longtime homes by Jewish settlers in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah last December. AP photo. Israeli police officers detain a Palestinian during a protest supporting Palestinian families who are under threat of eviction from their longtime homes by Jewish settlers in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah last December. AP photo. Listen in English. Listen in Arabic. Beta v.1.0, powered by automated translation. Last week, Mary Lou MacDonald, the president of Irish Republican Party Sinn Féin and leader of the opposition in the Irish Parliament, addressed an EU conference. When asked how she would direct Irish foreign policy, her remarks were both compelling and instructive. The Irish experience of colonization, partition and conflict, that's where we come from, Ms. MacDonald said. So Irish foreign policy has to be true to that tradition, not in a passive way, in a very active way. We will be very firm on issues of self-determination, in particular on the question of Palestine. It is our firm view that we need international courage and leadership on that matter. What I have long appreciated about the Irish is not only how grounded they are in their history, but also how they have learned positive lessons from it. Sinn Féin's victories in the Republic of Ireland and in recent elections in the North are important on multiple levels, not only for what they say about the past and future of Ireland, but also for the message they can send to Palestinians about their past and future struggle with Israel. As Ms. MacDonald recognized, Ireland long suffered under colonial rule, during which Britain exploited Ireland's resources and treated its indigenous Catholic inhabitants with racist contempt. To facilitate their governance, Britain sent thousands of its citizens to colonize and rule over the island and privilege the Protestant Church as another display of dominance. The hardships endured by the Irish Catholics were many, the most notable being the infamous famines which occurred during the middle to the late 19th century. During this period, more than 1 million Irish died of starvation or disease, while more than 2 million were forced to flee the country. The famines were a crime, despite the fact that the island was producing food aplenty. The Irish were forbidden to eat their grains or livestock, or even hunt or fish on their lands. The food from Ireland was reserved for export to Britain. Sinn Féin party president Mary Lou MacDonald attends a news conference at the European Parliament in Brussels this month. EPA Sinn Féin party president Mary Lou MacDonald attends a news conference at the European Parliament in Brussels this month. EPA The Irish are grounded in their history. The Irish often rebelled, but it wasn't until the 1920s that they succeeded in casting off British rule and establishing the Republic of Ireland in all but the 6 counties of the north, which were heavily populated by Protestant settlers and remained under the control of the British. While the Republic of Ireland went about the business of building their nation, with strong support from the Irish expatriate communities abroad, strife continued in the north between the Protestant majority and the restive Catholic minority, culminating in a bloody civil war. The violence was egregious on both sides, with a Sinn Féin-affiliated Irish Republican Army carrying out frequent bombing campaigns to resist British governance. The conflict ended with an agreement that provided a power-sharing arrangement, open borders between the North and South, and a provision that should majorities in the Republic and the North agree in the future, a referendum would be held on Irish unity. It was fascinating to observe how, in the wake of the agreement, the population of the Republic was able to put aside bitterness and focus on building a future of prosperity. During the first 2 decades following the agreement, the island, for all intents and purposes, became an economic unit. People traveled freely, trade and investment went both ways, and bonds were built. Ideological and political hostilities remained with the Protestant Unionists, those wishing to remain a part of the UK, squaring off against the Irish Republicans, those seeing unity with the Republic of Ireland. Then came Boris Johnson and Brexit, keeping the border open but imposing awkward restrictions on commerce that pleased no one. This set the stage for the Sinn Féin political victories in the North and the Republic. No one believes that the path forward will be easy. Protestants in the North will attempt to block Sinn Féin's efforts to govern. And no one should imagine that Irish unity is. Allies in the struggle for justice and equality have, after one long and brutal century, taken another step forward to erasing the vestiges of British colonial meddling. In addition, they should note that where there is a vision, a strategy to realize that vision, and a disciplined approach to implement that strategy, progress can be made. There's also a lesson for Israel. They can settle, annex, deny rights, and impose hardships on a captive people, but, in the end, with Palestinian Arabs constituting slightly more than one-half of the population between the Jordan River and Mediterranean Sea, they cannot win. With each new settlement and new act of repression, they just keep digging the hole they're in deeper. The Palestinians should take a page from the Sinn Féin playbook, recognizing that there is a one-state reality in the making. This means articulating a vision of a state with equal rights, religious rights, justice, and shared prosperity. It means projecting that vision and developing a plan with partners in Israel who are willing to share that future. It means casting off the corrupt patronage systems that serve no purpose other than to maintain the status quo. It means rebuilding ties with Arab states that are making peace with Israel and cooperating with them to advance Palestinian rights and justice. And it means mass nonviolent resistance, and repudiation of counterproductive calls to use axes and knives or rockets, all of which only make the path forward more difficult. The way forward will not be easy or short. But surely it is clear that the current visionless, strategy-less, and undisciplined approach isn't going anywhere but further into the hole Israel is digging. If nothing else, the lesson of the Irish is that small steps guided by vision and strategy are the only way to forward. Just as tiny, once colonized, and oppressed Ireland can lead the way for Europe to develop a values-based foreign policy, so too can Palestinians rise above their justified bitterness and learn lessons from their oppression and project a values-based vision that becomes the beacon, lighting the way not only for a truly democratic Palestine/Israel, but also as an inspiration for struggling oppressed peoples everywhere. China's economic slowdown could set the stage for tech dominance. The country is betting on infrastructure spending as a path to recovery, but what kind of infrastructure matters most? Surely you turbines at a wind farm in China. Bloomberg turbines at a wind farm in China. Bloomberg. Listen in English. Listen in Arabic. Beta v.1.0, powered by automated translation. China's economy has suffered a plunge in the first half of 2022. But put into context, given its economic size, even a 5% expansion of its economy is nearly equal to creating an economy the size of the Netherlands, or one larger than Turkey's. A slower growth rate on such a gigantic economic scale is inevitable. While gloom abounds, China's economic engine has hit a curb, not a dead end, and there is still ample room to engineer an economic turnaround. In the latest 10,000-participant economic rescue meeting presided by Premier Li Keqiang, he cautioned that the current economic condition, at some levels, is worse than in early 2020 when COVID-19 freshly hit. China faces export decline and consumption fragility in 2022, exacerbated by the ongoing zero-COVID policy. Manufacturing capacity has mainly been disrupted under lockdowns, and consumption growth has nearly been stagnant, with millions of Chinese stuck at home. But Mr. Li also noted that China did not flood the market with liquidity during the pandemic, and as a result has escaped the inflation curse engulfing the West. China's April Consumer Price Index, a measure of the price of consumer goods and a marker of inflation, rose a mild 2.1%, and the Chinese central bank has enough policy space to lower interest rates if the economy commands it. Trade, consumption, and investment are commonly named the three horse carriages of the Chinese economy. It is unsurprising that China's imminent economic rescue measures will center on the third and last horse of the economy. In the meeting, Mr. Li committed to an old-school Keynesian policy prescription: major investment in the country's infrastructure. In the more than 40 years since China began its reforms, its economy has hit speed bumps a few times, including in 1990, in 1998 following the Asian financial crisis and the global financial crisis of 2008. Each time, China faced enormous domestic economic challenges. And each time, China fostered new growth impetus to the economy. Persistent lockdowns to counter the spread of COVID-19 have played a role in China's economic slowdown this year. Getty. Persistent lockdowns to counter the spread of COVID-19 have played a role in China's economic slowdown this year. Getty. In the more than 40 years since China began its reforms, its economy has hit speed bumps, and each time, it fostered new growth. In the first 2 decades of the 21st century, investing in rural transportation, highways, high-speed rail and airports has been a sturdy pillar of China's economic growth, particularly at difficult moments. This time is no different. However, China faces a new dilemma in 2022. The challenge for China today is less whether it should invest in infrastructure but what infrastructure it should invest in that will best deliver the economic outcome needed for tomorrow. Not all types of infrastructure are equal when measured by growth potential. But today, China's economic challenges go beyond simple structural reasons. It faces two formidable economic risks in 2022: the side effects of the persistent zero-COVID policy and the tightened control of the private sector over the past year. Two sectors stand out as the primary casualties. The real estate sector produces a fifth of China's GDP. Real estate feeds into a large spectrum of industries, from raw materials, construction and banking to real estate services. The real estate sector has been suffering from the government policy clawback from land sales and bank credits to imposed sales price caps and floors. Since the surprising measures taken against China's ride-hailing app Didi one day after its debut on the New York Stock Exchange, the country's most savvy entrepreneurs have responded swiftly by relocating stock offerings to Hong Kong and focusing on their core businesses. The antitrust regulations imposed on Chinese technology companies have caused layoffs among China's nouveau tech elite class, who have grown comfortable living off of lucrative stock options. Over $1 trillion worth of market cap from big Chinese tech firms has dissipated at both the US and Hong Kong stock exchanges since then. More from Shirley Yu. Why Ukraine is bringing Russia and China closer. How China's role in the global economy is changing in 2022. How will China stay an economic powerhouse while going green? So what next? The solution to China's growth clearly lies in the technology realm, but think infrastructure, not unicorns. NDRC, the National Economic Planning Body, has outlined an ambitious data and computing power national roadmap for the 2020s. The plan aims to transfer the wealth of data stored on servers on China's east coast to the newly conceived data computing centers in the western part of the country. China's west has thus far lagged in its development momentum. This move will not only tap into the rich renewable energy capacity there, but also give the region a unique, unequivocal strength in the digital era. China is clearly focusing on renewable energy infrastructure, budgeting nearly $10 trillion to expand capacity, a bold move that will fast-track the renewable energy innovation cycle, reduce the cost and cement an inalienable centrality to the global supply chain for the energy transition. Over the coming decades, China will likely be the world's largest electric vehicle producer, with a robust national EV infrastructure outlay. It currently holds the most significant global share in solar and wind energy supply chains. By contrast, the American Build Back Better Act that would see the delivery of renewable energy infrastructure, including 50,000 charging stations across the U.S., was voted down by the Senate. While both China and the U.S. realize the significance of investing in renewable energy infrastructure, China's economic slowdown has provided the incentives to expand its own infrastructure massively while the U.S. lags behind. Within the decade, China will see its cloud computing capability significantly upgraded, and its renewable energy market more affordable and accessible. A new economic model will emerge out of this crisis, making the current slowdown, ironically, worthwhile.